Hi there, my name is Samantha Beach, and I was sexually abused by a pastor for over a 2-year period. Thanks to the support of college professors, friends, family, and PAVE, I found the courage to break the silence. As a victim, I never imagined I would be sexually abused, but to be sexually abused by a pastor takes the sexual abuse to a whole nother level. Who would have thought a man of God would take advantage of my vulnerabilities and do what he did? I turned to this pastor for help with the grieving process after the loss of my grandfather, and soon my nightmare would begin. Confusion, anger, dismay. I thought, how can this be happening to me? Anyone who knows me knows I have a strong personality, and when I'm wronged, I never have had a problem being confrontational and speaking what I think. When this sexual abuse first began, I knew how wrong it was, and all I could think is what my parents taught me and how wrong this was which was occurring. The sad thing is, when I told this pastor I did not want to participate in this type of behavior, he would say to me, "You are a more righteous person than I." So, his reverse psychology worked, and as he wore that white collar, I felt like I had to obey him. I felt like he was the next thing to God. Sexual abuse is devastating, but to be sexually abused by one who is to follow the Word of God, one who is to foster my spirit and care for my soul, destroys you like nothing else. Your world comes crashing down, and you wonder to yourself, how will I ever escape? In most cases of sexual abuse, the victim has the support of the community. However, in my situation, I had no support because the pastor was a charismatic individual who was well liked, and no one believed he did this to me. The most difficult thing for me when coming public was to be disbelieved and to be shunned by members from my church that our family had belonged to for over 60 years. It's overwhelming when you write a 5-page written complaint in detail to the bishop of the sexual abuse that occurred, as well as giving evidence that boundaries had clearly been crossed by the pastor, and be told after, all I have is a he said, she said situation. The one thing that I do not understand to this day is how the bishop could allow this pastor to preach behind the pulpit for almost another 6 weeks. I was shocked, wondering, how can this be? After dissatisfaction and complaining to her that I saw he was still there, she then removed him from doing any counseling and being one-on-one with any women. You've got to be kidding me, is what I thought. This in her mind was protecting other members in the congregation? I don't think so. This proved to me that the bishop never had my best interest at mind, and that was clearly evident after receiving my written complaint when she sent me an email on just resolution and mediation, which when you read through the 13 items on the page, number 7 said, "Nothing said in mediation can be used in a criminal or civil investigation." She tried to trick me by giving up my legal rights of protecting myself as well as others. This is when I decided it was time to go to the police. I would be damned if I would allow her to try and slip my abuse under her holy rug to hide. I will never forget walking out of the investigator's office that day. I cried walking out thinking, finally someone believes me. The reason I chose to break the silence is because I came to the conclusion that God didn't place this abuse in my life to harm me, but instead, He knew I had the power to make a difference. I would be certain that I would stop this predator pastor and church if it was the last thing I would do. I felt I had a duty to protect the next woman. I would be sure that this pastor would never harm another woman as he did me when all I was looking for was some counseling on life's problems and to gain a closer relationship with God. My criminal trial lasted 3 years when the pastor was finally convicted of several felonies. However, after wearing a wire and getting him taped by law enforcement of the abuse that occurred, he chose to take a plea bargain rather than let all of his followers hear the tape. He took the easy way out. After I entered a civil suit against the pastor as well as the Minnesota Methodist Annual Conference. This nightmare lasted 2 years of my life. I now realize why most women choose not to break the silence. The church has a strategy where they try to wear you down. They want you to quit, to walk away, because the pain is so unbearable. I remember after doing my 8-hour deposition with the church's attorneys of wanting to end it all. I remember saying to my attorney afterwards, Why don't I just leave a suicide note, and then you can have my parents file a wrongful death suit against the church? The church is evil, and to this day, I do not understand how they can symbolize what they do and what they preach, yet be such hypocrites. I now realize why victims of pastoral abuse do not come forward and break the silence. I literally got raked across the coals by the church if I were to blame for the injustices that were done to me. Unlike other types of sexual abuse, to be abused by a pastor literally destroys one's souls. There were days where my faith diminished and I no longer believed God existed. I felt if God did exist, why would He allow me to go through this kind of pain when He knew the truth? Since, I no longer look at the church the same. Now, after my experiences and what the church made me endure, I see them nothing more than a business out to make money with the offerings placed in the plate every Sunday. I always believed the church would follow the Word of God, but if you follow up on my story, you will see that the church was out only for themselves, hoping to silence me and slip the abuse under their holy rug. I never would have been able to break the silence and accomplish what I did without the support I received from Angela Rose from PAVE, my family, friends, and my attorney Bob Haycheck. After being turned down by a number of attorneys, Bob Haycheck chose to take my case. It's reassuring to know that there are still attorneys out there like Bob who hold high moral standards and do not take a case because of the payout, but because they know how I was wronged and that they feel they have a duty to bring justice. Because of the perseverance of my attorney, we finally defeated the church, and 7 jury members unanimously found Pastor Don Budd guilty, as well as the Minnesota Methodist Annual Conference. My abuse started in 2003 and ended in 2011. 8 years of my life have been taken to prove of the injustices done to me, and if I had to do it all over again, I'd say, bring it on.